We begin the current Daf, Mesech is Gitin Daf Samaches. We begin 17 lines down for the top of the Yamid, where the Gemara continues in a related discussion from this Kur Diyakis, which this Kur Diyakis is Shin Dalet, is a demon, and so therefore the Gemara gets into a very fascinating conversation regarding Shadim, which Maral says that not necessarily everything here is like it's a simple understanding. There's obviously deeper ideas, but that's where it relates from the previous Daf. We're doing today's Daf. So I'm discussing today's Daf our Shloimo Melch's quest to discover the Shamir worm, which is a very unique worm, which was needed for the building of the Beis Hamikdash. The method that Shlomo used to capture Ashmedai, who was the king of the demons. The incidents that occurred during the transfer of Ashmedai to Yerushalayim, on the way, some very interesting stories. Ashmedai banishes Shloimo Melch and impersonates him as the king. And that ends with the Machlekes Rav and Shmuel, that how did Shlomo end his life? Was he originally a king and then he ended like a regular simple person? Or was he king, a simple person, and then he came back to be a king ultimately as the end? So begin the current Daf, 17 lines down, the Gemara quotes a pasuk in Kehelis, that Shloimo Melch says, he authored Kehelis, Asisi li sharim v'sharis. I made for me, as we'll translate in a second, what this means, sharim v'sharis, which are really types of song, shira. I made for me songs, v'tanugas b'nei adam, and delights of mankind, shida v'shidas. So what does this mean? So the Gemara explains, sharim v'sharis, elim nizema. These are types of songs. So Shloimo Melch, he was the king. He had everything in the world that he wanted. That's what the whole Kabbalists is saying, that in this world it's all vanity, it's all vain, it's nothing. What's the whole point of this whole thing? It's only obviously to know God and to serve Him. But what does it mean? Sham Sharis? These were types of musical instruments. V'tanugis b'nei adam, and he had all the delights of people. El Berechis, he had his pools and umer chatzais, and he had his bathhouse. So the pool is where he has the cool water, and the bathhouse is the warm water. Shida b'shidais. What does that mean? So Hachat Targimu, here in Babel they translate it means Sheda b'shidsin, meaning he even had in his possession male and female demons. I mean, he controlled everything. He had AI, was way before. He had demons. They knew way more than the chat boxes, And b'Merav Amri, in the West, they said, it's actually Shidasa. It means something else. It actually means a royal carriage, or that where the women would ride in. So he had all types of cars and pools and music and the mamish, like the ultimate, that's whatever anyone could dream about in the type of having fun. Shlomo Melech had it all. Now Amr B'Yechanan, he says, so according to the pshat that we said, that it means male and female demons. Shalish meyas mini sheidim hoyi b'shichin. In Shichin, which was the name of a place, there were 300 types of demons. But v'sheda atzma eni demahu, he says, but the demon itself, I don't know what it is. Meaning, I don't know what its form is and what its nature is. Or some say that shida atzma, his words that he says shida itself, meaning the head of them all and the mother of them, says, I don't know what she is. But be that as it may, Amamar, the master says, Hachat Targimu, we said that one translation of Shloimo HaMelech, what he had, Shida B'Shidsin, was, what does it mean, Shida B'Shidis? It means he had a male and female demons in his possession. So the Gemara says, Shida B'Shidsin L'mayi Boile. What does Shloimo HaMelech need? A male and female demon in his possession. So the Gemara explains a very interesting long story. The Chassidus says, a pasuk in Melachim Aleph. It says, V'habayis b'hibanaisai, the house when it was being built, the Beis Hamikdash, Evan Shloimo Masa Nibna B'Gomer. So there were complete stones that were quarried, that were built, etc. Which the Gemara tells us, Amalu Rabbanan, Shlomo said to the rabbis, Heiche Avid, what should I do if you're not allowed to make the stones with iron tools to chisel it? It has to be complete. So how am I supposed to do that if obviously that's not how they naturally are? Shamalei, they said to him, Ika Shamira. There's the Shamir worm, which is a creation from the 6 days of creation, that nothing hard could stand in its way. It could cut through anything. The icy Moshe live la'avnei ephod, that Moshe Rabbeinu brought for the stones of the ephod. Which is more in Mesech the Seited of Mechazim Beis tells us that these stones of the ephod that were worn by the Kohen Gadol on his garment were you weren't allowed to write on it with ink because it says Pituchei Chaisim, had to be inscribed inside of it. At the same time, you couldn't carve out and chisel it because it says bimilu oisam, that it can't be missing anything. When you chisel, something's missing. So rather, what they did is they wrote on it with ink, and then they put the shamir worm on the outside, and the shamir worm would go where the ink was, and it would crack on its own, and so nothing was missing at the same time that it was inscribed inside. So go ahead, you could use, which Tais has a whole discussion if that's true that the Ephah didn't need the shamir. It says when did the shamir disappear? Interesting conversation. But Amalahu, so Shlomo said to the sages, says, okay, but Heche ishtaker, where am I going to find the shamir worm? So Amalahu, they said to him, I see shida b'shitzin, bring a male and a female demon, kavshino ahadadi, subdue them, press them together with afflictions to say where he is. And that's why he got these male and female demons. Maybe they'll know and they'll reveal to you where it is. So I see shida b'shitzin. So he brought a male and female demon. Kavshina adadi. He pressed them together. They said, look, anan lo yedina. We don't know. Maybe some waterboarding. Who knows what he did? He said, we don't know where the shamir worm is. But dilma ishmadoi malka the other. Maybe the Ashmadai, the king of the demons, maybe he knows. So he said to them, where is Ashmadai that I could conquer him? They said to him, Isa betura plan. He's on a certain mountain. Karile Beira. What he did is that he dug for himself a pit over there, and they filled it up with water. And he covered the opening with a stone. And he sealed it with his seal. Every single day, Ashmadai goes up to the heaven. But he learns all the teachings that are being taught in heaven. Then he comes down to earth. And he learns everything that's being taught down here on earth. And then he comes. He checks out his seal to make sure no person touched it, to uncover his pit. He opens up the pit. He uncovers it. He drinks the water. And then he covers it and he seals it again, and then he leaves. That's what he does. So Shlomo Melech heard about this. So Shadrei Livinayo ben Yayada. He sent Binayo ben Yayada, and Yovli, he gave Mr. Shilta a chain, the Chakik al Hashem, that has engraved in it God's name. The Iskasa, and a ring, the Chakik al Hashem, that has God's name engraved in it. The Gavi da Amra. He gave him bowls of wool, the Zika de Chamra, and flasks of wine. And also he went. Kara Beida Mitatoy. So what he did was, on the bottom part of the slope of the mountain, lower down than the pit of Ashmadai, he dug a pit, as this picture illustrates. Ushfinu lamaya. What he did was, he emptied out the water of the upper pit into the lower pit through a hole that he dug by the edge. It was between the two pits. Now, since the ground of the first one was higher than the ground of the bottom one, so all the water from gravity emptied out into the bottom pit. Then, visasminu. Then he sealed the hole between them, with these balls of wool, so that when he puts the wine into the upper one, as he's going to shortly do, it shouldn't flow out from the middle one to the bottom one. Then, he dug another pit, Meiloi, above the pit of Ashmadai. And he poured in the wine into the upper pit, going into the middle pit, which Minu, and then he filled up those two pits, the upper one and the bottom one, with earth, that Ashmadai shouldn't realize. And Salak Yasabilana. He went up and he sat on a tree. Ki Asa, when Ashmadai came, after his long day of learning in Shemayim and Aretz, he checked out his seal, found it complete, because Binyayo didn't tamper with his pit itself, at least by the opening. So Galye opened it up, finds his water. It's not water, it's wine. Samar, he said, it says a pasuk in Mishlei, let's hayayin. Wine is a mockery. Haimer shecher, intoxicating beverage is madness. And whoever fools around with it will not be smart. And Uksivi quoted another pasuk in Isaiah, znus v'yayin v'tirosh, licentiousness and wine and fresh wine, yikachleb, will take away a person's heart. So he quoted these two pasuk. I mean, obviously, it's negative effects. Layishti, he says, I'm not going to drink. He didn't drink. Now, Kitzachi, when he got thirsty, Lesagile, he couldn't hold himself back. He says, a dorshtik. Tzayishti, he drank. Rava, he became drunk, Begana, and he fell asleep. So Nachas Asa, so Benio comes down from the tree. Shada Beishishalta, he ties on him the chain, and Sasme, and he clamps the chain around his neck, that he won't be able to move his head. Kiyita, when Ashmadai woke up, Havakum a farzel. He was going crazy, trying to get the chain off of him. Amalei ben Yos said to him, Shmo de Marach Alach. The name of your master is on you, meaning referring to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shmo de Marach Alach. The name of your master is on you. So he was stuck, he was caught. Kidakad le va'asi, when he was taking him, bringing him to Shlomo HaMelech, Mata Dikla. So they came to a tree. Chafbei, he knocked down the tree, and Shadye, and he sent it flying. Mata Lebeise, he came to a house, Shadye, he knocked it down. Mata Gabekuva, when they came to a small hut, to hear Malta from a widow who lived over there, so she saw this person walking, knocking down trees, knocking down houses. So Nafka, she went out as a Gitin Tamid Beis, Ichanole, she pleaded with him to draw himself away, that he shouldn't knock into her hut. So he bent his height away to the other direction to move away the width of his shoulders from her house, and it for big yarma, and he broke a bone. He says, this is a pasuk Mishle, a soft word breaks a bone, meaning through her soft supplication that she begged me, I broke a bone now. Now, Chazah Samya, so as they're walking, he saw a blind person that was wandering off the road. So Aske, he brought him back on to bring him La'orche back onto the path. Chazah Ravya, he saw a drunk person that was wandering. Also, he got lost from the road. Aske La'orche, he brought the drunk guy back onto the road. Chazah Chedvasa, he saw a simcha. He saw that they were bringing the bride. That people were very joyous at this wedding. Bacha, he was crying. Shamelahu Gavra, he overheard a person that was telling the shoemaker, Avali Masani Lashev Sheni, I want you to make a pair of shoes that will last for 7 years. Achach, he laughed. Chazahu Kisma Davakasim, he saw this person that was doing some type of a sorcery of divination, and Achach, he laughed. Kimatala Hasam, when they finally came to Shlomo HaMelech, they didn't bring him in front of Shlomo HaMelech until 3 days first passed. Now, Yom Kama Amalahu, the first day he was there in the palace, he said to the people, why is the king not wanting that I should be brought in for an audience by him? So Amraliya, they said to him, Anse Mishtiya. His drinking overtook him, and he drank too much, and therefore he can't see you. So Shokal Levinta, he took one brick and put on top of another brick. That's what he did. They came and they said to Shlomo what he did. He said to them, you know what he's telling you? Hadar Ashkayu, give him more to drink. So you take one brick and put on top of another drink, that's how he's going to overcome his hangover. The next day, he said to them, why is the king not calling me in? To him. So they said to him, Ansei Michla, he ate too much. So Shaka Levinta Mechaberta, he took one brick and took it off from the other one and put it down. So Isva Ara, and he put it on the ground. Also, Amalei Lashem, they came and told Shlomo what he did. Amalei said to them, this is what he's telling you. Negidi mine mechla. That to stop him from eating, that he should only have a little bit, and that's how he'll get over this stomachache that he has. At the end of 3 days, they brought him in front of Shlomo HaMelech. So Shakal Kanya, Ashmedai took a reed, Umoshach Arba Garmidi, and he stretched it out a distance of 4 amas, and he threw it in front of Shlomo HaMelech. Amalei, he said to him, Mechti, let's see. When that person, meaning referring to you, Shlomo HaMelech, when you pass away, Leslie Bahadin Alma, he's only going to have in this world Eladal Garmidi, 4 amas, meaning the space of where his dead body is in his grave. But everything else he doesn't have. Now you conquered the whole world. And you weren't happy until you had to conquer me too? So Shlomo said to him, I don't need anything from you. I just need the Ivanya LaBeis HaMikdash. I need to build the Beis HaMikdash. And for that process, I need to have the Shamir. So Ashmedai said to him, to me, it wasn't given over. So you see how many steps he has to go. Sometimes with Panus, you have to try this, try that. It doesn't work. So he tried the this, and then the shadim says, no, Ashmadai is Echa business. But L'Sara the Yama Masale. It was given over to the minister, to the master of the sea, but he only gives it over either to the hoopoe, or it's the wild turkey, the wild rooster. But the Mehem that wild rooster is believed with its oath when it swears to the master of the sea that he'll return the shamir. He gives it to him. Now, my Ovid Beit, what does he do with it? Why does the hoopoe or this wild rooster need the shamir worm? Because Mamtile, what he does with it is he brings it liture de les bayishib. He brings it to mountains that don't have any settlement of any vegetation and trees to provide for whatever creatures are there. And he puts the shamir worm on the peak of the mountain. And the mountain cracks a little bit like a ditch. And then a bird goes and brings seeds me'ilani from trees, and he throws it over there. The seeds of trees, and trees grow over there, and then that could provide for the wildlife. And that makes a settled area. Now behind the Tagaminan, and that's what they translate that by duchifas. It's called nagartura. The wild turkey is the mountain cleaver because it cracks open mountains. That's what it does. So badku, so they checked until they found where there's a kina de tarnagela bara, a nest of the duchifas, of the wild turkey, the isle bani, where there were the babies in the nest. They covered the nest with white glass so that the bird should see its babies, but it won't be able to go, and it will need the shamir to crack open the glass. Also, when the bird came, it wanted to go and it couldn't. So azal aisi shamira v'isve. So I brought the shamir and put it on the glass. So Ramabe, the agent of Shloima, went and he threw kala his voice. He screamed shadye, and he it threw it. So Shakle, the shliach, took it. And the bird went and choked itself, the bird, because of its oath, because it committed suicide because it was trusted with its oath that it's going to bring back the shamir to the sar of the yam, and now he couldn't, so the bird committed suicide. Now Amalei ben Yahu, so ben Yahu, and as on the side of the Gemara brings the Medrash Tilim that the Ger says ben Yahu ben Yehoyada said to Ashmadai Emelon Kamili de Tamaya de Abdis Borcha. Now I'm going to ask you about all these interesting things that you did on the way that we were traveling from where I caught you to Shloima HaMelech. My time, what's the reason? Ki chazisi lahu samya. Why, when you saw that blind person that was wandering on the road, asikte la'urche, you brought him back onto the road? Why were you concerned about that blind person? So Amalei said to him, because there was an announcement in Shemayim, the Tzaddik Amahu, that it was a totally righteous person. Whoever does him a favor, will merit in the world to come. Therefore, I helped him back onto the road. My time, what's the reason? You saw that drunk person, the Ketoi Baruch, that was wandering in the road. You helped him go back on the road. So Malay said to him, because in Shemaim they made an announcement that there was a totally wicked person. I was doing him a favor that he should consume all the merits that he has, that he goes straight to Gehenna. Okay, my time, what's the reason? When you saw that chasna, when you saw that celebration, bachas, you cried. So Amalei said to him, that husband is going to die within 30 days. She's going to have to wait for the minor Yavim. Meaning that chassan had a baby brother, the mother just gave birth, and she's going to have to wait for her brother-in-law for 13 years until he brings 2 pubic hairs and he's fit to do chalitza. So therefore, a grace of simcha, but he was crying. So my time, what's the reason? Gavra, when you overheard that person, the Amalei L'ushkapa, that said to the shoemaker, Avali Masana L'shev Shnen, make me a shoe that's going to last for 7 years, Achichas, you laughed. So Amalei said to him, Ahu Shiva Yomi Leslie. That guy doesn't have 7 days, meaning he's not insured that he's going to live 7 days. He might die tomorrow. He needs a shoe that's going to last for 7 years. Okay, my time why when you saw that person doing divination to try to find out the secrets of the world, achichas, were you laughing? He says, Amalei said to him, this guy was sitting, beneath him was a great treasure from the king that had gold and silver and all types of treasures right beneath him. Liksim my deikatuse, let him divine what's right beneath him. Right? The people think they're going to you're looking for investments that want to travel on missions. All you have in your backyard, you have right beneath you. That's why I was laughing, because he's doing all this grace and it's right beneath him, all the treasures. So Tarche Gabe, so Shloima delayed keeping Ashmadai by him at the Banya Beis Hamikdash for a period of 3 years until he actually built the Beis Hamikdash. Now, Yom Echad, one day, have a koy l'chudei. They were alone. Shloima was with Ashmadai. None of the other people of his royal cabinet was there. It was just him and Ashmadai. So Shloima says to him, look, see if there's a passage in Bamidbar that says, Kisoya fois, like the loftiness, re'im loi, of the wild ox, which re'im is a type of an animal, loi is to him, meaning for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, meaning Hashem himself has toya fois of re'imim for his own agency, to go ahead and punish with his shlichus. So, Bamina, we say, what does it mean, Kisoya fois, like the loftiness, Ila Malach Hashar? This refers to the heavenly ministering angels that Hashem says. And re'im, what's his wild ox? Is Ela Shedim. These are the demons. So, said Shlomo to Ashmadai, Ma'adav v'saychu minan. What's your greatness more than us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu praises himself with you, that he has malachim and he has shedim? So Ashmadai said to him, Shakul sheshilta minai. You want to know? First take off the chain from me, v'havli iskasach, and give me your ring, which had God's name on it, and I'll show you my greatness. So this is obviously a mashal of a yerida that Shlomo Melech had. Shakle l'sheshilta minai. He took the chain off from the demons. He untagged his phone. He took off all the chains from the demon. V'yavli iskasa, and he gave him his ring. Bale, he swallowed him. So the question is, did he swallow him? Did he swallow it? Did he swallow the ring? Did he swallow Shlomo? But he put one wing in heaven, one wing on earth, and Paske, he threw Shlomo Melech Arba Mea Parsi, 400 Parsi, which a Parsi is 4 mil. So this is like thousands of miles that he threw him. On that moment, Shlomo Melech said a pasuk in Kehelis, "My yisrin la'adam b'chol amalei." For what gain is it for a person with all that he toils? He toils beneath the earth. He had everything, pools and cars and money and planes and jets and everything this and that, and then 1 second, it's all gone. And because when the demon in you gets a hold of you, afflict, you lost it all. He said, what's the whole point? I worked so hard to get these pools and this and that, whatever, and it was for nothing. So, additionally, the pasuk says in Kehelis, and this was my portion from everything that I worked on. It was zeh, like this one thing. What was this one thing that Shlomo Melech had from everything? So Machlokes Rabbi Shmuel, one says all he had was his stick. One says it was just his shirt. That's all he was left with after everything. They sold him out. Now Shlomo Melech was knocking on doors, and wherever he went, he said this pasuk in Kehelis. Ani Kehelis, Am Kehelis, so Yisi Melech al Yisrael b'Yerushalayim. I was the king on the Jewish people in Jerusalem. Now, when he came to the Sanhedrin, the rabbi said like this: look, Mechti, let's see. Shaita, a fool, a mentally deranged person, b'chad milsa, with one thing, lois sarach, he doesn't get stuck. He doesn't constantly say the same idiotic thing all his days. My hava, what's going on over here? That this guy says, I was the king, and he doesn't say some other retarded thing. They have people that Mashiach, that this, that whatever, but he comes up, he changes something else, he says this, but here he's saying the same thing. What's going on? Sounds like maybe there's some truth over here. So Amalei B'Niyahu, so they said to B'Niyahu, did the king ask you to come to him recently? Amalei said to him, no, didn't ask me. So they sent for the queens, and because Shlomo Melech had many wives, said, Kasi Malka Ligabaychu, did the king come to you? So they sent the message back to the Sanhedrin, and yes, Kasi, he comes. So they sent to them, Bitku Bekare. check by his feet, because this is the well-known thing that the feet of a shin daled is similar to that of a chicken's feet. So shalchulahu, so they sent to them b'mukikasi. He doesn't come barefoot. He comes with socks. So he understands what he's covering up over here. V'katavalahu b'nedusayu, and he actually petitions us to be with him when we're in our state of nida. And v'katavalahu namel labas sheva ime. He even petitioned to sleep with his mother Batsheva. So Asur l'shleima, so they brought the real shleima. And again, in machshava, this is a big idea. A person could be as his own shade. But the real shleima came. V'avalei iskisa, they gave him the ring, v'shashalta, and the chain, the chakuk le'Hashem, that has God's name engraved in it. Kial, when he came back into the palace, Chazi Ashmedai saw him, and Parach, and he flew away. Even so, says the Gemara, that Havali b'Yisusa Shlomo Melech was still afraid of Ashmedai. That says the pasuk in Shir Hashirim. Hine behold mitase shel Shlomo, the bed of Shlomo HaMelech, Shishon gibodim savala migibodim Yisrael. He had 60 mighty ones from the mighty ones, the Jewish people that surrounded it. They were all holding onto swords, and they were learned in the art of war. Each man had his sword on his thigh. Mipachad balelas, from the fear of nighttime. Again, because Shlomo Melech was so afraid of Ashmedai that he couldn't go to sleep at night unless he had 60 people with swords there around his bed. And you talk about the anxiety at nighttime, whatever. This was a real security measure that he had from the fear of Ashmedai. But the Gemara says, Rabbi Shmuel Chadama once says that actually Melech v'Hedyot. He was a king, but he ended off his life as a common person because he never came back to his full kingship. That's how the Marshal explains. He was a king, but he never really took back his original greatness. Chadam once says, no, Melech v'Hedyot u'Melech. He was a king, common person, and came back to his greatness as a king. Now, going back to what we said on Samach Zayin Beis, which we were talking about the healing of Kordiyakis, which was this thing of the halacha of our Mishnah. So the Gemara brings other illnesses and what its healing is. L'dama de reisha, for the blood of the head, which really means to say a person has an illness of a headache because it comes from the pressure of the blood. So lesi shurvina, he should bring a type of a boxwood, type of a cedar, ubina, and a willow, v'asya dara, and a moist, araba meaning a willow, and a moist myrtle branch, v'zesa, and an olive branch, v'chilfa, and saftzafa, which is a wood that's called poflayer, and v'chilfa diyama, and cloves, and v'yavila, which is a type of a herb. You should cook them all together. The lintel tlasmei kasa a high geese you should take 300 cups and pour it on one side of the head. The tlasmei kasa high geese you should take 300 cups and pour it on the other side of the head. Now, and if you can't do that or it doesn't work, at least the var de chivri should bring a white rose. The koi bechad dara, that all its leaves grow on one side, one above the other. And they should cook it. The lintel shitin kasa a high geese the should take 60 cups poured on one side of the head. The shitin kasa a high geese the should pour 60 cups on the other side of the head. Litzlichasa, which is when he has a pain in half of his head. Lacey tarnagoyla b'ray should bring a wild rooster. Lishchate bezuze chivra, and they should slaughter it with a refined silver dinner coin. That's what he should slaughter it. Ahu gisa the kayivle. And he should have that the blood should drip on that half of his head where he has the pain. But when his dar midame, he should be careful from its blood that it shouldn't blind his eye. And balitle, he should hang the slaughtered rooster besifa de bava by the doorway of the house. The chiyah, so that when he walks in chayiv bay, it rubs against him. The chinafik, when he leaves chayiv bay, it rubs against him too. Any time.